Hello, welcome to today's lesson. I am so glad you're here. Today's lesson is practice for yesterday's lesson. So no new material. We're just going to practice using the partial quotients method to divide numbers. In fact, here's our learning target. I can divide a larger amount into smaller equal-sized groups using the partial quotients method. Okay? Before we begin, also, just like yesterday, do you have your math notebook and a pen or a pencil, something dark? Just like yesterday, I'm going to ask you to format your work the same way. So turn your page to landscape mode, make 4 columns, divide your paper in half, and then divide each half in half. Number those columns 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll have 3 practice problems today, and the 4th one will be the optional challenge problem. Write your name at the top, and then let's get ready to work. Okay, so we're going to do 2 practice problems today, okay, together, and then you have 3 practice problems to do more on your own. Although, if you're still stuck, that's okay. I'll help you. We can work on those practice problems together as well. So let's start with this problem here. This one reads 509 divided by 9. And we're going to start with the same question that we ask ourselves each time. And that question is, how many groups of 9 are there in 509? I like to think of groups that are easy to work with in my head. And one such group is 10. So I always go, when I have a problem like this, to, well, what would 10 groups of 9 be? Right? And so that looks like this, 9 times 10, 10 groups of 9. And that would be 90. Well, you know what? I'm going to compare 90. There is 90. I could pull 9 groups of 10 out of this 509. If I did that, it might look like this, actually. Let me just go ahead and just really quickly do that. I'm going to go ahead and draw my nice straight line down the right side. My first partial quotient is going to be 10. All right. I'll take that value of 10 nines and write it here, right where it belongs, lining up my place values like that, right? Draw my equal sign right across everything. And I'm going to subtract, right? And I'm going to make sure that my place values are lined up, right? The 1s and the 1s, the 10s and the 10s, so I can subtract correctly. And 9 minus 0 is 9, and 0 minus 9 is, can't do that. So I would borrow, and then I would subtract 10 minus 9 and get 1. And then I'd have the 4 left over, 419. I'd have a lot more division left to do. In other words, 10 groups of 9, 90, gets me closer to my final answer, but boy, I have a lot of steps left. I got a big number left to divide still, and I'd like to try to get this number down to as small as possible, as quick as possible. And the way we do that is by trying to use the biggest partial quotient we can. So let's back up a little bit here. Let me back up. And let's consider a bigger partial quotient. What if we had a bigger group of 9s? Like, what if we had 20 9s? Well, that's just an extended math fact, right? That's 9 times 2 with a 0. So 9 times 2 is 18, and 1 0 makes it 180. Okay, we're getting closer to 509, but if I subtracted 180 from 509, I'd still have a really big number, and I'd have a lot of division left to do. So I'm gonna continue to try to make this first partial quotient as big as possible by thinking of a larger group of 9s. So let's see here. I'm gonna go 9 times 30. Let's see, that would be 9 times 3 is 27 with a 0, 270. Getting closer. How about 9 times 40? That's 9 times 4 is 36 plus a 0 is 360. Now, how about 9 times 50? That would be 9 times 5 is 45, 450. All right, now we're getting there. Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I use 59s? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and write my line down here, my partial quotients line. And then I'm going to take my group of 59s. I'm going to move it over here where it belongs in my problem. So my first partial quotient is 50 groups, right? I don't need to multiply because I've already done that. So I'll take my 450 And I'm going to slide it right in here underneath the 509. Okay, but first I'll write my equal sign, my subtraction sign, and then 450. All right, now I'm going to subtract. And here we go. 9 minus 0 is 9. We've already done this, haven't we? I think we have. 0 minus 5. Can't do it. So let's go ahead and trade. Take one of those, put it right there. Now we have 10 minus 5. That's 5. And then 4 minus 4 is 0. So 59. There we are. Okay, so now we repeat the steps and we ask ourselves that same question that we started with. How many groups of 9 are in 59? And here we get to some reflex math facts. I'm going to think what times 9 equals something close to 59. And I know my 9's table, so I know that 9 times 6 is 54. That's really close. So my next partial product is going to be 6. And I'm going to write 54 right here and subtract. That leaves me with 5. And then I'd repeat my steps again. How many groups of 9 are in 5? Well, there are no groups of 9 and 5. 5 is less than 9. That wouldn't make sense, would it? So that's a remainder. 5 will be my remainder. I'm done dividing. All I have to do now is add up my two partial quotients, right, to get my total quotient. So let's do that. Let's do that in red like we did yesterday. 5 plus 6 is 56. And then my remainder is 5. I took that remainder there, and I just moved it over here. And now I'm going to take this entire quotient, and I'm going to slide it up to my answer line and circle it for Mr. Duranis. So I'm going to write 56, remainder 5. And I'm going to take my time to make sure that my place values are all lined up. Look at that. Through my entire problem, from the answer to the remainder, all the ones places are lined up. All the tens places are lined up. All the hundreds places. That's really important. I want you to be focusing on doing that as well in your own work. All right, one more practice problem before you get to some more independent practice. 1,097 divided by 21. The numbers are bigger, but don't panic. The process, the steps are exactly the same, okay? We're going to think to ourselves, how many groups of 21 are there in 1,097? Well, let's stay with the same number of the same group size. Let's go with 10 groups of 21. So if I had 21 times 10, what would that be? Well, that's just another extended math fact. You can do that, right? 21 times 1, that's 21 with 1 0, 210. All right, well, 10 groups of 21 then is 210, and that's not that close. I'm going to have to do a lot of division steps. I want to get this first partial quotient much closer in size to my dividend, so I don't have to do as many steps. So let's see here. If I go to 20, that's going to be 400 and something. Or I want to go faster than going 10 by 10 by 10. I'm going to jump up a little bit here. What if I just jumped right up to, let's say, let's say 40. 21 times 40. I don't know what that is in my head. So I'm going to quickly come down here and just do a very quick traditional multiplication. 21 times 4. You could do this on a separate piece of paper if you needed to, okay, to save space. And I'm going to do 4 times 1. That's 4. And 4 times 2, just like we learned. That's 8. 84. So I'll come up here and I'll write 84. Plus, I don't want to forget my 0, right? Because this is an extended math fact. 840. Ooh, now we're getting closer. 840. That's a partial quotient that's getting much closer to 1,097. In fact, you know what? We could even use it. I'm going to do that. I'm going to use 40 21s. And that means I'll put the 840 underneath my dividend, and I'm going to subtract it away. Okay? So 7 minus 0, 7. 9 minus 4, 5. And then let's see, 0 minus 8. Can't do it. Got to trade. 10 minus 8. 10 minus 8. That's 2. 257 left over. Now, look what I can do. I don't need to think about all these other new groups anymore. I can go back, and if I look at my list, and this is one of the reasons why we make a list in writing, I can see that I already have a group of 21s, 10 21s. That's pretty close to this new partial dividend here, 257. So I'm going to use this right here. I'm going to say my next partial quotient is 10. And I know from the work I've already done that value 21 10s or 10 21s is 210. So I'm going to write that right here, 210. And I'm going to subtract that away and get 47. Yes. Okay, now how many groups of 21 are there? How many groups of 21 are there in 47? Well, let's see. 21 times 2 would be 42. That's pretty close. Yeah, there's 2. Okay. 2 groups of 21. If I don't know that in my head, I could just do that out over here. Again, on a separate piece of paper, 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. 42. And I can subtract that away and get 5. And now I ask myself, how many groups of 21 are in 5? And there aren't any. That's a remainder. 5 is a remainder. So my final step, I'm going to add my partial quotients. 40 plus 10 plus 2. And that's going to give me, let's see, 40 and 10, that's 50, plus 2 is 52. So it's going to give me 52 with a remainder of 5, which I will bring up to my answer line. Yep, there we go. And I'm going to circle it for Mr. Geronis. 52, remainder 5. And let's check. Did I line up my place values really nice and neat? Oh, I did. Look at that. There's my ones place. There's my tens place. Oop, there's my tens place. And let's see, there's my hundreds place and my thousands place. Everything's lined up. That's my final quotient, 52, remainder 5. Now, practice work. This is number 1. Do you see the number 1 right here? You're about to do this problem on your paper. Here in the number 1 box. Okay? And when you're done, put your answer into Edpuzzle, and then we'll do the next problem. And you'll put that in the number 2 box. Are you ready? Go for it. And ask me if you need help, okay? Go. All right. How do you think you did on that first problem? Are you ready for number 2? Well, here you go. Here's problem number 2. 198 divided by 3. Go ahead. Keep doing your work on paper. And in the second column here, put your answer into Edpuzzle, and then continue on to the next problem. Go for it. All right, here's your final practice problem for today. 2,136 divided by 20. All right, do your work in column number 3 and show me your work nice and neat. And then remember, when you get to the next problem, the challenge work, it's optional. You can write pass in the answer. All right, I'll meet you on the other side. Go for it. Okay, here it is, the challenge problem. Wow, challenge problem. 65,903 divided by 109. It's optional as always. So write pass if you don't want to do it. And you're done. Great work today. I'm always proud of you. Keep up the great effort. And don't worry if you don't understand it still. We're going to keep practicing together. All right. Thank you. Bye.